Happy Friday, everybody. You are tuned and tapped back into your daily source for fantasy hockey news and degenerate gambling breakdowns, the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Noah Hanifin gets his bag, but is he going to be enough to take this Vegas Golden Knights team back to the promised land? We'll break it all down for you on today's episode.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Giddy up, and here we go, hockey fans. You're tuned back into your daily source. It's the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Shout out to the everydayers holding us down and making us your first listen every single day. We see and appreciate you. Make sure you smash that 5-star review. Drop us a subscribe on YouTube. Steele and I appreciate it so much. Speaking of which, today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Indeed. When you're growing your own business, you have to make every dollar count. That's why with Indeed, you only pay for quality applications that match your must-have job requirements. Visit Indeed.com/lockedon to start hiring now. Terms and conditions apply. Steele, you know the work as a fantasy hockey GM doesn't stop. We've said it countless times. We're going to continue to say it. And even though a lot of our listeners out there might be out of the realm of success this year, you never can slack on what's going on in the NHL. That's why we're going to keep you up to date. Noah Hanifin, what does it mean? He gets his bag. Fantasy value. The Vegas Golden Knights have reeled off 3 straight losses. The St. Louis Blues are nipping at their heels. We're going to take a look at the Blues, the Knights, Hanifin, and the Western Conference playoff picture. Wrap it up with Friday's bets. We got a 5-game betting board. Pretty good week for both Steele and I. Over to you, my friend. As always, Noah Hanifin, big 8-year deal. What's your take on this? What are you seeing with Hanifin? What are you seeing with these Golden Knights?
8-year deal, $7.35 million on an average basis. Massive deal for the Vegas Golden Knights and Noah Hanifin. I think he was a perfect fit for when the Golden Knights traded for him back at the trade deadline. He fits their culture and persona seamlessly. Their blue line has now been built into a fortress since coming into the National Hockey League. I think he's been great alongside Pietrangelo or, Haig right now currently, and then, switching and mixing and matching. But him alongside Pietrangelo as the first D pairing has been very solid for them. And he has a very similar play style to Shea Theodore. So I think that works into their benefit as well for Vegas. I think fantasy wise, I would personally take Shea Theodore over Noah Hanifin in most fantasy leagues, but that could actually be a very interesting conversation in itself because they have very similar stats, very similar playing styles, and actually Noah Hanifin has been the more durable player over the last couple of years. So that could be a very interesting conversation. But personally, I really love Theodore, and Hanifin resembles him. They resemble each other a lot. So I mean, great contract overall for both, Vegas and Noah Hanifin. I don't know how Kelly McCrimmon keeps doing it. Like, he's just throwing money at all these players right now. He's making these deals. He's restructuring the salary cap. Like, I don't know how much money they're going to be over, how much they're going to be over the cap once Mark Stone comes back from injury. Like, he clearly just thinks about the now and does not think about the future until it becomes the now. It's really incredible, McCrimmon as a GM, what he's been able to do with this team.
That's a fact, and that, I think, is one of those points that if we're going to talk about this situation, that should be mentioned, because I also just straight up don't know how that's going to work when they come back, and obviously you and I can do a little bit more reading into it, but the point remains. This team continues to make astute moves. However, Steele, it still finds itself now with 3 straight losses. 6-3-1 in their last 10 until those 3 games, and I know a couple of those could have gone their way. They are still not having their ticket punched. They still have an opportunity here for the St. Louis Blues, who we'll talk about in a minute, to catch their tail. And look, they have obviously all the makings of a postseason team. They have all the makings of a Stanley Cup winner. We know this. They have a banner in the rafters, and I think in their first year, Steele, second year, they went all the way all the way to the Cup final. So we know the caliber is there. However, this year has been a bit of a different story. They started the year on a torrid pace and then really cooled. And I think you know where I'm going to head with this conversation right now when we're talking about the Knights and their ability to get it done in the postseason. Is special teams. Look, when you have a power play that's clicking at a worse percentage than the New York Islanders and San Jose Sharks right now, I'm going to have concerns when you head into the postseason. And again, I haven't dug into we're going to dig into the St. Louis Blues. But when you're talking about this Vegas Golden Knights and the moves they made, Steele, they swung for the fences yet again this year. And if they completely miss out on the postseason and then they have to do all this contract juggling, winning is winning. And that really doesn't matter if you put another cup up there and you can just deal with it after the fact. But if you don't, and then this all kind of comes apart a little bit, at least swinging for the fences, I don't know. I might be looking at this a little differently. However, Noah Hanifin this year, and I'll put it back to you, very solid defensively, very solid in the peripheral fantasy categories, 44 points, 24 penalty minutes, 116 block shots, 63 hits. To me, he has done exactly what I expected him to do, and even more so in terms of fantasy.
Yeah, he's been really good this season, even when he was with the Calgary Flames, and we know what's been going on with them over the last couple of years. But to come into Vegas and really just solidify this bruiser bad blue line that they've got right now, beastly, yeah, very beastly. And then what he has right now, 16 points or 9 points in 16 games. With the Vegas Golden Knights. So, I mean, I've been very impressed. He's been one of the best defensemen since that time for them as well. Again, this is a team that has dealt with a lot of injuries all over their blue line, all over their forward group,
and in the cage too.
And in the cage as well. So, I mean, it has definitely been a disappointing season for maybe a lot of fantasy GMs out there with specific players, but also with the way the season's gone so far, being in this position where they've got 4 games left and they haven't clinched a spot. I will say they do have a pretty easy schedule remaining. On paper, it looks very easy. They've got the Minnesota Wild, Colorado Avalanche, Chicago Blackhawks, and Anaheim Ducks. But I was looking at it,
pretty good.
And they've either split the season series, or they're below 500% with these 4 teams remaining. So they haven't played well against.
Stat.
Yeah, they're 1-2-0 against the Ducks. They're 1-1 against the Blackhawks. They're 0-1 against Minnesota, and I believe they're 1-1 against Colorado. So they're either even or they.
I love it when you do your research, by the way.
I do a little bit every now and
again. Well, we have to sometimes, Steele. But hey, look, the fact remains is the next couple of days are going to be very interesting, and all these questions and all of these speculations you and I are throwing out there, they're going to be answered, just like taking a look at the Western Conference playoff picture. We're going to take a look at these St. Louis Blues that we've alluded to and wrap up the show, as always, breaking down our favorite bets of the night. You come here for the 30-minute hit, baby. We get you in and out with all the news that you need in 30 minutes. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Policy Genius. You know, when it comes to insurance and keeping your family safe, nothing is more important. Policy Genius is the country's leading online insurance marketplace. It saves you time and money so you can provide your family with financial safety starting today. Policy Genius is convenient and time-saving. Check life insurance off your to-do list in no time with Policy Genius. Head to policygenius.com/lockedonnNHL or click the link in the description to get your free life insurance quote and see how much you could save. That's policygenius.com/lockedon. Check out policygenius.com today.
And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Continue to hit the subscribe, the follow button, leave your 5-star review. And on top of that, are you watching on Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day long? Have to turn down the volume with all that shouting. Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day, bringing you the top stories, the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channel app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Once again, thank you so much for tuning in for today's episode with Flip and I Friday. We're getting into the weekend. The Masters are on. It couldn't be more better in the sports world now. Bryson DeChambeau leading after the first round.
I don't want to talk about that still.
It wasn't on the bingo card for me, but I mean, Scotty Scheffler's up there. And there's a couple of other players. I know McIlroy's battling right now, but hey, it's round 1. There's a lot of golf left to be played. There's
Moving day is on the table.
Moving day is on the table. There's a lot of hockey left as well in the season right now, with a lot of teams still battling in both the Eastern and Western Conference. Let's talk about the Western Conference, because we've highlighted the Eastern Conference a lot, because there's 6 teams still battling for a spot. There's only 3 here in the Western Conference, the St. Louis Blues being one of them. And I'll paint the picture, throw it over to you.
Paint it.
The Blues currently at 89 points with 3 games remaining. The Vegas Golden Knights, who we just finished talking about, they're at 92 points, so 3 points ahead of the Blues with 4 games remaining. And the Kings at 93 points with 4 games remaining. The Blues need all 3 wins if they want a chance at the postseason, and even that might not be enough. So, I mean, this is a tough ask right now, but I'll get into the remaining schedule for the Blues, but it's a tough ask with how well they've been playing as of late.
And we do not know, look, when it comes down to this deal, I gotta say the Vegas Golden Knights sure have struggled at times.
Yeah.
To me, they are far and away the better team. We talked about that blue line. However, there are some highlights that can be made with the St. Louis Blues, and I think I'll leave that to you. Other than I just need to say Jordan Binnington has been himself at a lot of portions of the season, flashing that kind of, I don't even know how to describe his attitude. He seems like just a hothead.
Yeah,
that's what I'm going to say. Yeah, he gets he's got maybe a stiff Ryan Ginger in that Gatorade bottle. And like after the second shot, he just gets a little feisty. Anyway, 28, 20, and 4, 3 shutties, 2.88 goals against, and a .911 save percentage. At times, he's been sensational and a very big reason why the St. Louis Blues team is still knocking on the door. So I just wanted to say that, number one. And number two, you know what I'm going to say? Special teams. They have a worse power play than the Vegas Golden Knights. 23rd best in the NHL is just not going to cut it when it comes to the postseason, especially when, maybe I could buy in if then you completely snuff out the competition on the PK and your top 2 or top 3.
Yeah.
Not the case for the St. Louis Blues either. 20th best penalty kill. So when you don't have at least one of those units at an elite level, or at least in the top half of the league still, that's where I just don't see it for this Blues. Can they still do it, though? The Vegas Golden Knights are making it so that they definitely can.
There is 100% a case that there's a possibility for the Blues making the postseason.
There's a chance.
I'm saying I always go back to that Dumb and Dumber scene with Jim Carrey. I mean, that's by far one of the funniest scenes from Jim Carrey's career. But on top of Jordan Binnington being absolutely stellar and seeming to be back to his ways, we got to talk about Robert Thomas as well. He's been absolutely sensational. Thank you so much for leaving it. I got all the stats up here. We're gonna break it down. 25 goals, 58 assists, and 83 points, all career highs for Robert Thomas. On top of that, 44 penalty minutes, 164 shots, 46 blocks, and over 25, I believe 26 power play points, all career highs for Robert Thomas as well. He was ranked 159th in the preseason Yahoo rankings, and he's currently ranked 46th. So that's a huge jump from Robert Thomas, having a career year, career highs in all sorts of categories. And this is what I want to say right here, the bread and butter of what I've been trying to say to him over the last year.
Shoot the puck.
He's shooting the puck now. He went from, he's a career high in shots on net. He actually has a career high in shot attempts. He went from 170 shot attempts last year to 317. So that's a huge major step in the right direction for Robert Thomas. And his shooting percentage might have gone down from 17 to 15.2, but it's still very impressive. It's still one of the top shooting percentages in the league right now. And even though he's not shooting at a Connor McDavid, Nathan McKinnon, Austin Matthews type of rate, he's putting the puck more on net, which is creating more chances for him to score, which it's shown this year. And that's what we've wanted to see. That's what I've wanted to see. And that makes his fantasy value go a lot higher than where we were ranking him over the last couple of seasons.
Most definitely. And look, he is having a solid, beyond solid fantasy year. What happens to me when I look at the rest of the team, and Jordan Kyrou has 65 points, you expect more from him. Pavel Buchnevich right in there in that 27 goals, 60 to 65 point range. I think that's kind of good season for him.
Yeah.
But after that, it's just a drop off. There's no secondary scoring. The blue line, okay, they were banged up, but there's not a lot to love back there. So if you take away Jordan Binnington and you take away Robert Thomas's good season, you take away those two guys, Steele, you can't help but feel that this St. Louis Blues team has maybe overachieved at times this season. You like what Jake Neighbors is doing. You like his future. I don't know a ton about what else I like for the future. You know, that Joel Hofer kid in net.
Yeah.
He's had his ups and downs. I still think he's going to be a pretty solid goaltender. But again, he didn't take that step forward. A lot of that, I think, has to do with Binnington owning the cage. However, just a little bit of love to the St. Louis Blues, because also if you've been one of those fantasy GMs to maybe pluck Robert Thomas and you got him in a late round, you might be one of those squads that have dusted off the trophy and taken home that loot. That's just one of those angles, Steele. Lastly, Dallas Stars in the Central, Colorado in the second spot, Winnipeg Jets 102. We got a series locked in very quickly. What are you thinking about that?
Yeah, no, I think there's really, I don't want to say there's no chance for the Winnipeg Jets. But there's slim to none. I'm not the type of guy that always say like, oh, it's not possible. Cause like there's always a chance. There's always a possibility, no matter how lopsided the odds are. But I mean, we're talking about Nathan McKinnon, Cale Makar, Mikko Rantanen, Valeri Nichushkin, Devin Taves. I mean, even though Alexander Georgiev's been not at his best this year, and it's going to be a head-to-head against the best goaltender in Connor Hellebuck.
Yeah.
There's a slim chance for the Winnipeg Jets. Early prediction, I'm going 5 games. I think it's going to be a dusting, but we'll dive more deep into that.
We'll save all of that for next week. I just needed to get a little tease out there because Avs Jets are locked in. The Jets have won 4 straight games. I don't know the head-to-head series season. All those stats Steele and I are going to break down round by round, series by series with all of our predictions.
We'll break all of that down once the season is ended. I'll try to pack it in as much as possible before the playoff starts. Before we move forward, before we get to big time bets, I just wanted to finish this with the St. Louis Blues, their last 3 games remaining, and just a small tidbit. This is just absolutely insane to me. And I mean, if the Blues do miss out by 1 or 2 points, they have no one to blame but themselves because of this stat alone. They played the San Jose Sharks 3 times this year, and they were the only team this season not to beat the San Jose Sharks. They went 0-2-1. They were outscored. They were outscored 12-3 against the worst team in the National Hockey League. So if they miss out by 1 or 2 points, that is huge. And that's going to be a huge thing that, a lot of us should be looking at. But I will say this with the last 3 games of the season for them this year, they're 1-0 against the Carolina Hurricanes, they're 2-0 against the Kraken, and they're 2-0-1 against the Dallas Stars. So if they have a chance, that's a slim bright spot right now. They've done pretty well against those last 3 teams. But
you're throwing a lot at me here, Steele.
I mean, there's a lot to talk about because this is insane. This is incredible to me. I mean, they lost all 3 games to the San Jose Sharks, but they were dominating against the Stars, the Kraken, and the Canes. So I just got to throw that out there as well.
I don't even know where to take that. I don't even know where to take that other than buckle up and giddy up, my friends, because it's about to get extra picante up in here. And we're going to get answers to all of these queries sooner than later, whether we like them or not. Things are going to start to play out on the ice. And that's when we will get some of these answers, Steele. Why don't you take us to break? I'm ready to go.
Big time bets right around the corner. But first, we got a couple of sponsors. We got to let everyone know this episode is brought to you by Indeed. When you're drafting your fantasy team, do you ever wish you could do the same thing with your business team? If you're building a roster to win the league, you need Indeed. Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Find top talent fast with Indeed's suite of powerful hiring tools like Indeed Instant Match, assessments, and virtual interviews. Something I love about Indeed is that it makes hiring all in one place so easy, because with Instant Match, Indeed does the hard work for you. Sponsor a job and boom, Instant Match shows you candidates whose resumes on Indeed fit your job description immediately after you post. With Instant Match, you can start hiring fast, and Indeed knows when you're growing your own business, you have to make every dollar count. That's why with Indeed, you only pay for quality applications that match your must-have job requirements. Visit Indeed.com/lockedon to start hiring now. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon. Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Cost per application pricing not available for everyone. Need to hire? You need Indeed. This episode is also brought to you by Factor Meals. Eat stress-free this spring with Factor's delicious, ready-to-eat meals. Every fresh, never frozen meal is chef-crafted, dietitian-approved, and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. Choose from a weekly menu of 35 options, including popular options like Calorie Smart, keto, protein plus, or vegan and veggie options. What are you waiting for? Get started today and fuel up your springtime goals. Looking for gourmet meals? Try meals that feature premium ingredients like filet mignon, shrimp, truffle butter, broccolini, and asparagus. Sounds absolutely delicious. Factor meals eliminate the hassle of prepping, cooking, and cleaning up. Simply heat and savor the good stuff. Customize your weekly meals with the flexibility to get as much or as little as you need. Pause or reschedule deliveries to suit your lifestyle. Head to factormeals.com/LockedOnNHL50 and use code LockedOnNHL50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next box. That's code LockedOnNHL50 at factormeals.com/LockedOnNHL50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next box while your subscription is active. Thank you so much for making the Locked On. That was a mouthful. I was trying to get it all out.
I'm hungry now. I need 18 factor meals to the dome still.
Hungry. I was trying to get all that out there, but I was running out of airway right there. But hey, go check out Factor Meals. Go check out Indeed, the sponsorships for today's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in for today's episode with Flip and I. We're giggly. We're chuckling. We're getting ready for big time bets. There are some interesting games on the schedule for Friday night. I've got 3 different picks.
Okay.
I'll throw it over to you so I can catch my breath real quickly. What's your first pick of the night?
Well, take a few minutes, pal, because I got a same game parlay here, and I almost copped out completely. I don't think I've ever had a night on this show where I haven't brought in bets to the table, and I'm not about to start now because Carolina, St. Louis scares me. The Preds in Chicago scares me too.
Yeah.
Flames, Ducks, I don't know. Minnesota, Vegas, I was unsure. The only one that I'm feeling confident about, and look, I'm not trying to take an obviously clear angle. The Arizona Coyotes have been bad against the Edmonton Oilers this season. And over the last 3 games, they've allowed goals against Edmonton. 16 goals in 3 games. They've all gone over the total.
Yeah.
And earlier this season, Leon Draisaitl had a 3-point night. So why don't I just get this out of the way? 8-1-1 the Edmonton Oilers are in their last 10 against Arizona. And that includes 7 straight victories. Give me the Edmonton Oilers on the money line. Same game parlay. Give me the over 6.5. Hold on, let me bring that up because I believe 7 of the last 8 over the number. And give me Leon Draisaitl anytime point. This isn't going to pay out a huge amount, but those are 3 winners, Steele. Draisaitl anytime point, the over, and give me the money line for the Oilers. And if I had to pick a lock, Draisaitl anytime point.
Loving the pick. I've got 2 picks from this game as well, and one from that Minnesota Wild Vegas Golden Knights game. So I'll start there. Wild on the money line against the Golden Knights. I wanted to get interesting. I wanted to get entertaining for the last 3 games of the schedule, and I want the Golden Knights to lose, the Blues to win, to just throw a little bit of a wrench in there in the plans of the Vegas Golden Knights. So I'm just going with one of my favorite teams. It's more of a gut pick and a feeling. Wild on the money line for my first pick. But I'm with you with the Oilers. This is where my next 2 picks come from. Oilers, Coyotes, over 6.5. You already mentioned it.
Yeah.
I mean, they've been some really lopsided, high-scoring games between.
And the Coyotes themselves, Steele, have been in a lot of crooked scoring games of late as well.
They have been. So I agree with you. I mean, maybe even bump it up to the over 7.5 if you're feeling real spicy.
Why not?
But over 6.5 is where I'll be right there with Flip on Friday night. And my lock of the night, Oilers alternate puck line -2.5 against the Arizona Coyotes.
Okay.
You could take the -1.5 at -110. That's not a bad odd whatsoever, but I'm feeling the juice. I'm feeling the over. I'm feeling the Oilers to dominate. -2.5 on the puck line for the Oilers is my lock of the night.
Should be noted that Connor McDavid is also questionable for tonight. So play that into it as you will, but I think they even steamroll without him. I still am confident in Draisaitl without him. I actually have no worries about this situation at all. And maybe now I'm overly confident, just pooch does steal. However, we're going with the gusto. We're going with the stats. We're going with the angles that make sense. Sue us if you don't like it.
Absolutely love
Actually,
it.
Don't do that.
Friday.
Just drop us.
Yeah, don't do that. Absolutely love going into Friday with these picks, though. The player props, the puck lines, and of course, my Minnesota Wild hopefully getting it done against the Golden Knights. Thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Once again, go check out Locked On Sports Today, the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. You can also find them on the free Amazon Fire TV channel app. Subscribe, go check it out. Doing great things over there, bringing the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On. So thank you once again for tuning in for today's episode with Flip and I. Have a great day. Enjoy your weekend out there. Masters weekend, everybody. Good luck with your bets tonight, and we shall see you back here again on Monday.
Let's go, Sahith.